Hello, we're back from our sabbatical vacation getaway, and we are excited about tonight's show. We're excited to be back with all of our listeners. Advocacy is back. Crystal Bunny are back. Today is Thursday, September the 12th, and we're happy to be with you all. Tonight we have a fabulous show. We have Eric and Patrice Lewis with us. So I'm going to let them talk about themselves, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Paula, of course, the founder of Advocacy. I have Morgan Pop that will be 20 on Friday. I
Oh,
have my
goodness.
son who's 24, and Morgan is nonverbal. She has cerebral palsy. And I'm married. I live in the DMV. I was raised in the DC area. So I'll pass the torch to Crystal.
Hello, everyone. I'm Crystal Francis, and I'm located in Michigan. I am a wife and a mom to five, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Come on,
I
Bunny.
am Bunny. I am in the Maryland area. I am married with three adult children, and I advocate for my 7-year-old autistic grandson, Grayson.
All right. So from there, we're going to turn it over to Eric and Patrice Lewis to tell us a little bit about themselves.
I'm Patrice Lewis, married to Eric. We live in DC proper. We are the proud parents of Neo Lewis, and he just turned 16 just a week ago. So we're excited to be on the show and talk about our advocacy for Neo.
Ditto. Thanks for having us, first of all. My name is Eric Lewis. Neo's dad is my title. And basically the same thing. We are extremely proud of Neo. He's 16. A lot of changes from the time he was born up till now, but it's been a journey. It's been an interesting journey, but most of all, a fun journey. So we look forward to having more interesting times. And excuse me, it's just been great so far.
All right. Well, I will say when I first met Patrice and Eric, it was at the Cheeks house. They would always have these gatherings. And I instantly bonded with Patrice because I felt like I think Morgan came around before we had anybody. And then once Patrice came and Eric came in with Neo, I mean, I will say kudos to the Cheeks house because it's a house where you can be yourself.
Mhm.
It's a place where we have a ball, and I've always had much respect for them as a couple, as parents to Neo. So with that being said, start off with telling us a little about Neo.
So Neo was born prematurely, and that was its own challenge. So, having him early, my first only, and the fact that he would have to be in the hospital for quite some time, was a bit daunting. But then, let's see, in December, he was in the NICU for about 5 months from September through February. And I think it was in December, right before Christmas, when we got a phone call and saying that a random eye exam noted some issues with his eyes, and they needed to do further tests. And it turns out that he had bilateral retinoblastoma, which is eye cancer in both eyes. So, having been diagnosed in December, we went through a couple more tests, and he started chemo right there in the NICU in January.
How
So
old was he? I'm sorry. How old was he?
I don't think it was a year.
no, he was three months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was early.
He
Yeah.
started
so
chemo?
yeah,
Oh
started chemo
my.
at 3 months. So, and it was tough. We had just being pregnant. We had just bought our house, so we live here in DC, and he came right after the month after we bought the house, and so it was like, okay, let's hurry up and get him home. But then, yeah, within those times, he developed cancer. So he's definitely a fighter. So he is legally blind, moderately deaf, and the hearing impairment was actually determined prior to him starting chemo, because most people who know about chemo is that it does affect your hearing. because the strength of the chemotherapy drugs. So he was already determined to have some hearing loss. So we already had a level that of knowing that he would have some hearing impairment. And then let's see. So we went through first round of having cancer, and he made it through well. 7 rounds of chemo once, and then again when he was about 3, the cancer came back. And so with that, then we had to do the chemo 7 rounds again with him at age 3. The left eye was okay. It became stable where we didn't have to, have more treatments to it. But the right eye came back every year. It kept coming back to the point where so we had chemo, cryotherapy, which is the liquid nitrogen. We'd had laser. We'd had I can't remember all the things that he had.
Chip. When we went to Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, we went to a specialty hospital in Philadelphia and got like this world-renowned eye doctor up there, where they did radiation. Yeah, that was the radiation treatment. So he's been through every kind of treatment that it's known to man for the cancer.
God bless him.
Yeah, it happened that at school he fainted or passed out some way, and then it turns out that the cancer was coming back at about age 7. And so we had to make the decision. He'd exhausted all of the other treatments, and so we removed that eye. Unfortunately, the right eye was his better seeing eye. So we were really concerned about what he would be able to see, if he'd be able to write. He was just learning to read. And, but God, it turns out that eye, it strengthened itself. He can run and be on the computer, on the iPad. He reads well. His writing, it took a little hit, but now he's back to having, pretty good legible handwriting. So yeah, everything that, that was thrown at him in those first few years, he's definitely overcome. It wasn't until, let's see, 3rd grade, I think, because Neo wasn't talking. And so we were like, asking the school, hey, what's going on? Is there any other assessments that we should do? Is it because of the hearing impairment why he's not picking up language? And yeah, he was diagnosed with also being autistic. So we're like, oh, great. Actually, seriously, great. Because I wanted to have some diagnosis so I can know how to help and work with him and get him treated. So, so he's deaf-blind, autistic. He is really, really curious. He's growing like a weed. He eats. He does not miss a meal. He's super skinny. I swear he eats all the time. We recently found out within the last 2 years or so, he's pretty athletic too. So yeah, it's just a different, every day brings something new with Neo. And we're really, really fortunate and blessed to be able to live in the world with him and follow along on his journey to discover everything that life brings to him every day. So.
Wow, that's a lot. That was a start to life.
Yeah.
But thank God that you guys are on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I hear you guys talk about, how he overcame a lot, and I would hear bits and pieces from Erica because she would always contact us to pray. I had no idea it was to this extent, but I don't know if you guys realize you've overcome a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest challenge, honestly, has been what I don't know. So it's been like every time you go to the doctor, I used to have a notebook, one notebook that I would bring, and when they talk about, a procedure or a condition or I don't know, the ratio of success. And I'm like, okay, well, let me go see what not MIT, but UMass is doing, or was Mass General. Mass General. I grew up in Boston, so I would check on what research that they've been doing, or CHOP up in Philadelphia, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, what they've been doing. So it has been a lot. So the one thing that I encourage newly diagnosed parents of newly diagnosed issues with kids is that give yourself some grace, and just reach out and ask. I had once, when they told me that they had exhausted all of the treatments for the cancer, I went to NIH's website and found like this random doctor like in Germany or something. And so I was pleading the case and like, do you have anything that's like, experimental that we can try, and anything, trying not to have, obviously, to have his eye removed. But they ended up circling back to send me to a couple of doctors up in UMass. And it turns out that for cancer specifically, a lot of doctors, they share the information. They don't, it's kids. They don't, they're not hoarding it. They get the credit regardless of, the new discovery. So the one thing I can say is that was eye-opening for us. Everyone knows about St. Jude, and, they may trek their kids to go down there, but you may not have to, because St. Jude's does share all of their information and their research.
That's really good.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
Excellent. I didn't know that.
Mm-mm.
I just want to add on to everything Therese said is 1000%, and the research that I would say we did, but she did a lot of the research. But I think a lot of times too is we tried our best to normalize our situation. And what I mean by that is, we had these situations, we had challenges, but you know what? He also has to go to school. He has to learn how to get on the bus, and we had to get routines set, and waking him up, brushing his teeth. He has to make his bed, and just like his phases of growing up. One of the things I'm thinking about right now is his haircut, and the journey I had, we had to go, or I had to go through, because he did not like, that sensation of the buzzer. Early on, it was just, I felt angst, like, oh, it's time to get his haircut. Here we go again, And now, like 16, he zips right through it, and he has he's been with the same barber. And that's going to get to a point where we'll probably go to in terms of building that community. But having that same barber, for example, seeing Neil's growth for years, and sort of like sharing that success when he's like, oh man, he just sat still and just, got his hair cut. Wow. So it's just normalizing things. I think that's very important too, for the child, but also for the parent's sanity, to be honest.
You're absolutely right.
Say, hey, it is what it is in terms of his challenges, but we also need to make sure we maneuver through this life in this world as we can, as best we can. So,
the new normal.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I like that you said that, Eric, because, and then Patrice, you're saying like this is your first child,
Only.
right? And your only child.
Yeah.
And so sometimes new parents, they, sometimes they may just kind of cater to the disability or enable the kid, and it could be unintentionally, but they're trying to do things to substitute in other areas. And like I said, I'm a mom of 5, and my 2 youngest sons, they're both autistic, and it looks different for both of them. And so, but there are 3 older kids in front of them.
Right.
And so I already had routines in place.
Yeah.
So before I even had a diagnosis, it's like, okay, you finish eating, get your stuff off the table, put it in the trash. And so when Eric is saying like normalize, it's like, this is life. You still want to teach some discipline, some barriers, like I lower voice inside, and this is how kids can learn versus, well, that's just how he is.
Yeah,
I just need to understand, and I just can't, and I think maybe it's just my observation. I'm not saying this as a whole, but sometimes just a younger generation may not always have that patience, and I understand that patience. And then it's kind of a skill, because I mean, Bunny, you have older kids and Grayson's your grandson, so you have a lot of experience where you can have that patience, and then you also can have that structure. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that that's what helps
Mhm.
you feel normal as a parent and the kid. It's like all the kids are going to bed at 8. You too, buddy. But we
Right.
just gonna learn to lay in this bed till we get it
Yeah.
together. Or
Mhm.
so I think that was such a very important point to point out. I know there are challenges. I'm not saying this is a one
Right.
size
Of
fit
course.
all.
Mhm.
Please, I don't want anyone to take that like, well, that's your child. No, I understand that, but I think those are just goals to always work towards, of like,
Mhm.
you have to learn to ride the bus. And just for instance, my youngest son had an issue with the bus and he acted out on the bus. And I did have the means to drop off and pick up, but I selected bus,
Right.
whether I needed it or not,
Hmm.
because he needed to learn to sit on a bus and follow directions.
Directions. Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
and so for those reasons, even today, I pick up his brother who goes to school 1 mile from him.
Mhm.
He gets out 10 minutes later. I told him, put that boy on that bus.
Mhm.
That's right.
Put him on the bus. I'm 1 mile from him. I pick up his brother and he's on the bus. He needs to learn that. So I just really like that point. I don't know, it's very
Yes.
major to me in today's time.
I
Yep.
And then
agree.
it's just not letting your diagnosis or whatever it is take precedence over the rear end and what normal life, or
Right.
not normal life, I'm sorry, but just normalizing the life in your family, how
Right.
that
That's
can
right.
look.
We still have jobs to do as parents.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's,
Yep.
Thank you.
that doesn't
Yep.
go anywhere. So.
Yeah. I had to learn that because I was that grandparent that really catered to Grayson because of his disability.
Bunny, I gave you too much credit.
No. I said I used to be. I probably talking to you guys and a few others. I had to learn to let go and let him do it and not hold him, you know, back because of that.
Mhm.
So I then had to change my thought and was like, this is our normal. You're going to have to do this. You can't, so I had to change some things. But earlier on, when Grayson was like 1, 2, I did everything, probably even when he was about 3. I did everything until I started talking to people and learning, no, it's okay to have structure for him. It's okay to have discipline in the home. Not saying, laying on of the hands, but discipline and structure. So yeah, I came a long way, but
Mhm.
definitely it's okay to normalize that the household, to make sure that we aren't handicapping them, because again, Chris
Further. Yeah.
always say, you know, disabled children grow up to be kids with disabilities grow up to be adults with disabilities,
That's
and they
Right.
right.
have to
Yep.
learn
Mhm.
how to function. So
Maneuver. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
I've come a
right.
long way. I've come a long way.
We're educating ourselves along the way. We are.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
So
Eric,
how was Neo
question.
like in school?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like with
Yeah, I
school
want
and
to know
stuff.
like how was the
Um,
school environment?
so he is at Maryland School for the Blind right now. He
Okay.
was privately placed. So
Mhm.
let me first start by saying, so
Yeah.
we're big advocates of public school. Like,
Mhm.
we both are products of public schools. I would prefer to move someplace where I can get a good public school and just, suffer through the extra taxes or whatever, just because I believe that much in it.
Mhm.
School is a right. And so I like, participating and having our kids participate in it. So because we knew that that was going to be our choice, we searched for the magnets or the cohorts that would accommodate a child with um, multiple disabilities or multiple challenges. We started out with the hearing impairment. We started out preschool at Gallaudet. I don't know if anyone knows, but Gallaudet University here in DC, you can start from preschool and get all the way to your PhD. Like,
I
Oh
never knew
wow.
that.
Did
I
I
not
did
thought it
know
not
was
know
all
that.
that.
college.
so exactly.
Yeah.
So everyone
Wow.
knows it's a university, but nope, there's elementary school, a middle school, high
Oh
school,
my
there are
gosh.
dorms there
Pre-K. Yeah.
even
That's
for kids to stay.
awesome.
So yeah, everything. When you're deaf, you can get all of your needs met at Gallaudet. The only challenge with the school was that they do very much cater only to the hearing impairment.
That's what I was going to ask. Do they deal with the multiple disabilities?
Exactly. So
And
when
most of these kids have multiple
there
disabilities.
you go. Yep.
It
And
seems
so
like they started off that way.
yeah, when they were when you again doing the history, when you do the history on the school, they were made or formed for deaf and blind kids, but some way
Wow.
through the history throughout, yeah, they only cater to deaf, which is fine. So then we moved to the DCPS public school environment and um, to a blind cohort, and that school again they were okay, but they were catering too much towards the blindness, and because Neo can see, he was not catching on well to the braille. He does use a white cane, so he's great at using the white cane, and honestly the white cane is more so for other people to see him because his vision, he only can see well within about 3 feet, so about an arm's length in front of him. Anything past that, then it starts to get blurry for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he really learned how to maneuver well at that school, but again, they weren't accommodating the deafness as much.
Oh, wow. So one or the other.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then third, we ended up at Payne Elementary. We had a really good rapport with that principal at the school. And so she came in and she told us about all the new programs that she was implementing. We got a great first grade teacher who we'd have for first, second, and third grade. So those first 3 years were
First time he had an intervener?
wonderful. Yeah, the first time. So kids
Was he an
who are
inclusion? Was he an inclusion?
he was in an inclusion class, yeah. And so kids
Wow.
who are have deafness and blindness there's a special category of deaf blindness, so they're eligible to receive or an intervener. And so that's a legal term. So it's a person who, if you remember the movie Helen Keller, the person woman in history, and she had an aide that was always with her. That intervener is a person who brings the rest of the world to the student. Like whether the teacher's at the board, the intervener would maybe recreate, enlarge, whatever makes that accessible to that student and brings the world to them within the sphere. In Neo's case, where he could see, but if it was a blind child, within the tactile sphere of the student. So that's an intervener. They're certified. There's a degree that they have to go out to get. So it's a pretty specialized field. And
Wow,
so
I never heard of that before.
Me
yeah,
neither.
we're fortunate to have an intervener for him for those first 3 years. So yeah, those were great. But then the schools changed.
Nothing ever like that's the thing too. It's something change.
Yep. It's too good to be true.
The parents and the child. Yeah.
Yeah. So things happen. His intervener, she moved on. That's Neo in the background here. So she moved on, and his teacher left. Also, the principal left. So we were like a little floundering at the school. Let's see, a couple more years went by.
I think, I was going to say, I think the next thing that I remember, he switched schools, but then COVID happened.
Okay.
That was very interesting because we became teachers.
Right.
We all
became teachers.
Yeah, we all became teachers for that little spell. And so we're teaching from, what is it, teleteach? I don't know what you call it. Anyway, we were teaching from home. And that was an interesting spell. And then that's when I think during that time, I think he started doing in person at Harvey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I forgot. And I forgot if we could say names of the schools, if you want to keep that out, but he went back to elementary school and in person, and it was okay. But I want to say there was issues with some of the systems in play there. They didn't give him all that he needed in terms of tactile information. Again, it was an imbalance. Yeah, it was a teacher who was mainly deaf, but she didn't really know in terms of his partial vision. And so then our intervener that year, who was wonderful, she started talking about her experience with MSB, which is the Maryland School for the Blind, and that's where she came from. And during that time, we were thinking about, well, do we do a transition? Do we do another transition? But we took a visit to the school. I don't know if and that pretty much sold us the campus, um, the potential that he had or he was going to get with that school. We thought hands down he needs to go there. So that's what we did.
Is that a
Wow.
public school?
It isn't. It's private. Yep, it's
Oh,
private. So we had to. It took all. I mean, we tried, and we explained to everyone within DCPS. Look, this is sixth grade, and that's where he was at Hardy in the middle school, and he was in a class by himself. They threw everything. They threw. I felt like they threw so much money at him, bringing things in for him, accommodating him, but he was in a class by himself.
he
Everyone
ain't had
else,
a socialization part.
exactly.
Right.
And
So
that's major. As we know,
it
even
is.
through COVID, we saw
It
how
is.
important that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we made the case. We spoke with all of his providers, OT, speech, vision, and we said, look, we don't think this is the right solution for him. And they tried to move him to another school, but I'm like, we've exhausted. We've gone to the deaf, we've gone to the blind, we've gone to the other. Like we tried. And in looking at the program that MSB had, and MSB does have autistic and deaf blindness programs up there. The only challenge is MSB is in Baltimore technically, but it feels like Towson. So, but yeah, I mean it's far. But yeah, definitely looking at the campus, it looks like a small liberal arts college campus.
Mm.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Do they
Um,
pick him up every day?
they do. So yeah, he has an
Wow.
hour and 15, hour and a half commute
Yeah.
each way, and now he stays on campus 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
So
That's really good.
Really?
That is awesome.
he's
Yeah.
it's a house, like it's a house with like 4 bedrooms, and the boys share a bathroom between the two boys, and they have to learn to cook. They have to
Life
use the
skills. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it.
Wow, that is awesome.
It is.
So
That
he's
is
it's
awesome.
good. It's a good fit. They're opening a new dorm any day now. I think within the
Yeah.
next couple
Should be
of
soon.
weeks they're going to be opening the new dorm, and he's going to move over there. And they have a track team. Like he was on the track team last spring, and
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's been they have a lot, and so
Does he like it? I'm assuming he likes it.
he does like it. He does.
Yeah, I'm about to ask, like, how is his quality of life? Like, is he like, bye,
Yeah.
mom and dad?
That is exactly
Pretty much.
of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we gonna meet
Monday
him?
mornings, he's taking a suitcase. Like, all right, let's go. You know.
Are we gonna meet him tonight?
Yeah, he's
Yeah, I'm
you
sure.
hear
Well,
okay,
he's always,
playing.
yeah, he's that guy.
Well, one thing I do want to ask too. I know we got off the cancer. I want to talk more about that, and I also want Eric. It's a privilege, first of all, to have a black man on here standing by his wife. I just want to, I know sometimes we hear so much negativity about our black men, but that is something that is so, I mean, I've always admired that about you. And we've had a couple of families on here where that father is right here with that mother. And I know my story was I married 3 years ago and my husband is standing, I mean, right by my side. I finally get to experience that. And that is so, I mean, I tell him all the time, just told him today, baby, I'm so glad that God saved you for me. And I mean, that is awesome. I say that all the time, because they get such a bad rap. I want to get back to that, but I also wanted to talk about, I know the various chemo treatments that Neil had. Tell us how that had an effect on his body. He was such a baby. I know that they say when chemo goes in, it kills the good cells and the bad cells. Tell us, how did that have an effect on him, and how did it have an effect on you guys?
Oh, yes.
So it was I mean, of course he lost hair both rounds, and he was weak. His skin color was just not right. It just translucent sometimes, and he would go from being pretty light and then even darker, and He developed, so till this day he is very afraid of needles. I mean, to
Oh, I
get
can
immunization shots,
imagine.
it takes takes
Yeah.
several people to hold him to get a regular, flu shot or something like that. But
Mhm.
um he did well. I will say that we did all of our chemo at Children's Hospital here in DC, and the little rooms that they have set up. They even have like an arts and crafts room. Neil was too young to do that stuff, but the little room has like a DVD player or if you're older, video game. So they make it comfortable for the kid for coming there because you have to, sit there and go through the procedure. As a parent, I still have my binder of the cocktail that, each session that you would have to get, because for him it was 3 drugs that he would get for each session, and they would make you look at the label before they start the injection,
Right. Mhm.
to make sure that you're concurring and you're seeing what the nurse is seeing.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was pretty tough. One thing again, his appetite, it didn't go down.
Well, that was a
It
good
was,
thing.
yeah, he had a good healthy appetite. I mean,
Mhm.
we don't have issues with him eating vegetables or anything. So
That's good.
getting nutrients and trying to get him back up to, I don't know if for those who aren't familiar with the chemo process, at least for Neo's trials, it was 7 or was it 4 days of chemo and then 21 days to
Mhm.
recover, and then when his white blood count would be back up, then they'd start it again. So between between the chemos and during those 21 days, I was always like, okay, let's get some liquid vitamin D and get some liquid, like everything. I would try to pump him up as far as supplements were concerned, and giving him as much um healthy, and we're tea drinkers, so he would have lemongrass tea, he would have chamomile tea, um just anything that I would think of to make sure that on the nutrient side, that he was going back and building back up, because yeah, as you mentioned, the chemo does kill everything.
Mhm.
And so yeah, he didn't, thankfully, I'm grateful he didn't have a lot of side effects,
Thank God. Thank
other
God.
than being tired. He did keep his appetite up, and um yeah, it was more so, us and taking him those 4 days in a row, to get the treatment in. But thank God, again, it was God. We bought where we live. We're only 10 minutes from the hospital. I
Mm,
have sat in those chemo rooms where families are coming in from Pennsylvania, or
Mhm.
mm,
um, lots of times I'd see like Quaker families coming. They're coming from,
wow.
rural Virginia or wherever that they're coming from, and bringing their kids. So that thankfully was not an issue that we had to deal with. So, it was all within his plan that, we're close by, and we had a good team for his cancer duration.
So, what was
So,
your support like with
mm,
regards to family? Your support system?
So we lived
I,
here. Go ahead.
I'll just,
Yeah.
I'll jump in. I thought it was, especially Teresa's, her dad, her mom, sisters, phenomenal. I
mm,
felt,
that's a blessing.
you mentioned Cheeks, the Cheeks family.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm thinking of a support group that constantly called, uh, uh, Colin, and
Our
just our
church.
church. Yeah,
Yeah, they
just
even
they.
went to visit him when we weren't
Yeah,
there. Like when, sometimes he would be at the hospital for whatever.
yeah,
And we'd go to the hospital and they're like, oh, someone from your church left a teddy bear. Or they came to
yeah.
see Neo. So
Mhm.
That's nice.
There's a lot of great support.
Mhm.
And if they couldn't, visit, they would constantly call, or see how he was doing, see how we were doing,
Yeah.
and so the support was there. And I know that that played a big part of us being able to get through a lot of the tough situations
Mm-hmm.
that we had to go through, and that were, just people calling and checking up. Um, I I started thinking about when Tree started going through the history, and then I thought about those things and how I don't like to think about those things that
Mm-hmm.
happened to him in the past, because it brings back those tough
Okay.
memories,
Oh
and
wow.
he
Yeah.
probably went through some sort of trauma.
Yeah.
The story I think I told Treese, just like that life, that I call it the hospital, because that's I can smell the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the hospital. I can see the hallways, the fluorescent lights, because that became a big part of our lives, just being there all the time. And
Mhm.
when I go back to a hospital for something totally different,
Yeah.
it comes back up. That's
Yeah.
how scarred I'll call it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
time period is for
Mm-hmm.
me. I don't know if it is for you, but definitely, like, when I go back to a hospital, I'm like, man, I need to get out of here, because those thoughts and memories start conjuring back up. And it's one of those things. One story I'll share. I told Treese, but I'll share with you all. I didn't realize how badly I was affected until we visited. It was Colin had, they had the barbecue, and some friends that I've met before, or associates, I would say, not friends, but associates that I've met before. I totally like blanked out and didn't know who they were when I met them. And it wasn't until I left that I'm like, oh, that's the people that we met before at your Christmas party years before. But because my mind was
Mm-hmm.
so immersed into the world
Yeah.
of hospital, chemo, spending the night at the hospital, waking up, going to bed, that other parts of my world pieces started
Yeah.
going away from my mind. And it was very, I just wanted to share that, because I don't know if anyone else has gone through that, or
All the
Yes.
Yeah.
time. Yes.
I'm
that.
sure.
I just want to
Yeah.
let them know that you're
Yeah.
not alone, because
So
it's
you guys were in and out of the hospital, what, the first 7 years of his life?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
pretty much,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I'm glad you shared that, Eric, because I
Me
think
too.
during these times, sometimes the man is forgotten. It's like he's made to be this strong figure. And I think, of course, we're the weaker vessel. I get that. But, it does affect the man as well.
I'm good. I'm good like that.
We're the weaker, stronger one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that she's not weak at all.
No, treat. Oh my God, she is. The way she just spew it out, I'm like, oh my. For me, Morgan didn't stay in the hospital as much. She stayed in enough, but I was a basket case. I
Mm.
really was, and I mean, it could take its toll on you. And like you say, Eric,
Absolutely.
sometimes you're not even aware of how it's hitting you in different ways.
Mhm.
Sometimes you think back and you're like, oh, I tell everybody it's a blessing that I didn't lose my mind. But what I had to do was say, I can't think about, like, if somebody said, "What you gonna do next week?" No, I can't even think about next
Next
week.
week, what are you talking
I'm right here. I
about?
can't think about another day. I can't think about another hour. I'm just in this moment right here, trying to survive this moment. So I
Mhm.
think that is so powerful. And I think sometimes we as parents feel like guilty for sometimes giving in to that feeling, even if it's just to get a good cry,
Mhm.
even it's just to get a moment that it's just like sometimes my R&R was a bath that night because
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
didn't have all of that assistance or people that could come and help and do this. People had their own lives. So
Mhm.
you had to just figure out, how do I make it through this thing every day?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love the fact that, Eric, you're sharing to other men
Yes,
that it's okay. It's okay to have your moments. It
it
doesn't
Absolutely.
is. I
diminish
love
your
it.
the
Treat
man.
about you because I'm thinking as mom too, we have our own feelings of trying to just even like dads, moms are trying to be strong, especially if the baby is in our bosom.
Right.
We try not to really, because they're sensitive and they can feed off of us a lot more. So
Mhm.
were there instances or scenarios or challenges, whether it's with the doctors or with the school system, that you just found yourself like in those kind of moments as well?
I think it was my first instance of um going over an edge. It was getting his first hospital bill in the mail. And as I mentioned, he was in NICU for 5 months. And thankfully, we got decent insurance. So the bill came in and it was $576,000. It was like this thick.
The house payment, a house,
576, which is definitely more than we pay for this house. Okay. So I thought, wait, what? Like, and I'm like, he's still there? Like,
and he was only 5 months.
No, this was like 2.5 months.
Okay.
And and so I called the hospital saying, is there a payment plan? Like, how do you
on $570,000?
Right.
So, but then I looked at the bottom and it was just like, oh, we haven't sent it to your insurance yet.
You'd be like, thank God.
I'm
They
like,
should have sent it to you.
You wanted to send it to us.
Yeah.
No.
I laid it out. That poor, I if the woman is listening, I let her have it. It's like, why would you do this to a family? We have our child is still there at your hospital. I mean, it was a good 2-minute rant. I'm like, how dare you send this? Do you know what our son is going through and what we're going through? So I know she probably was just like, oh my gosh, why is this woman yelling at me? And it wasn't, but yeah, that was.
I didn't even know Patrice know how to raise her voice. I ain't never.
Huh? You don't?
I ain't never heard Patrice raise. No, it must be you, Eric. I ain't never heard Patrice raise her voice.
But I mean, that was one that I'm like, okay, I gotta calm down. I gotta find another way. So as far as dealing with when things come, because they come, and whatever that challenge is, it's not so much compartmentalizing, but understanding whether it's count from 20 to 10, 20, and then 10 to 1, take a deep breath, inhale, exhale. What can you do right now within your power? Is it, if you can't change it, even if it's for your child, accept what you can do and figure that out for that right now moment. And looking ahead, tomorrow will take care of itself. You pray, you have faith, but it makes no sense in, racking your brain like, oh, am I going to be able to do this? And this was just handed to you, whatever that situation is. But even if you have to set it aside, take a bath, maybe call a friend. My MeFi, this is the group of young ladies who of which Miss Cheeks is part of.
Her crew.
Our gang. I don't know.
I love them.
Crew of close as sisters, friends that, I can call any one of them in the middle of the night, whatever time zone we're in. And sometimes, there have been some crying sessions on the phone. And but if you have that network, sometimes maybe the MeFi might not be there. There's always, find that corner, center yourself, talk to God. I mean, he's listening. And there have been some times for that too. But I think we are stronger than we know. I think
absolutely.
Yep, I believe that.
Something to that, because that moves me to say this in terms of Black men. We have to do a better job talking with one another as Black men, going through certain situations. I know, you talked about the MeFi, and I joke and stuff and say I'm a little jealous. I am a little, but no, I see that that's a tight knit group.
That's right.
I have my friends. Don't get me wrong. I have good friends that I talk to, and I have talked to, but I remember during that time there may have been like maybe one or two people I may have shared, my experience, and more like one. And it wasn't until later on I started to share, oh, this happened to me, like when Neil was younger. And they were like, man, I never knew you went through that. And I think they felt a certain way, like, why didn't you come to me with certain issues and concerns? And it just has me think that if any man is out there listening, don't be afraid to talk to other men about your situation. especially if you have a network, which I do now, thankfully. What's the group's name? Fathers of Heroes.
Oh wow.
I like
Yeah,
that.
I like that.
men, black men, white men too. We get together every now and then. I got to give those guys a call, but we'll go to happy hour, and these are all men with children with disabilities. And,
Wow.
That is really nice. Are you guys on social media?
I believe so. I'll talk with the leader of said group, but I know we have a listserv. That's how I connect with them. I'll look at my email.
Got it.
I haven't talked to these guys in a while, so I don't think they're on social media, but I'll double check that.
Yeah.
That's a great.
good
I like that
support.
title. I
Yeah.
like the
like
title
that.
of that group.
If I find it, I'll send it through the chat here. Or
Yeah.
something like that. But that's just one example of how men should network with one another
Yes.
and talk to.
Did you just start doing that with Neil? Did you find that Neil brought that out of you, or was that something that you were always like used to talking to your friends about, just surface stuff and not the deep stuff?
Yeah, I don't know if I had my close friends that I talked about deep stuff. I have my best friend. He's also from Pittsburgh. I have Daryl. Shout out to them and other folks too. I don't start naming names, so I'll leave people out.
Oh yeah, you be in
great.
trouble for that.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to James Cheeks.
Right.
Man. So there are so many people that I've had that network with, but again, it wasn't. Some are in terms of an onion, some are closer than others.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know. That's just how I work, and it wasn't until later on, like I said, that I started to address certain concerns to other people outside of my inner circle. But I don't think that should be done later. You should, if you're feeling pain, depression, or whatever, you should don't be afraid to network with other Black men, especially those that are going through the same thing. Now, to answer that question, I didn't start in terms of Neo and working and talking with other men with disabilities. It was because of Neo.
Okay.
It was probably because of Neo, and then I felt I needed to find a similarity, if you will.
Yeah.
Certain people going through the same thing that I was going through. So that pushed me to connect with them.
Now, how did you guys take to squeeze out that time for you guys? How long have you been married now?
See,
that's not a trick question.
We've been married for quite some time. Safe answer.
Okay, well, you can think about it. Do the math.
That's what I was going to say. I was just about to say that.
14 years?
17.
17.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you guys throughout this time, how did you, did it make you stronger? What did you do to come together? Because I think one of the things that we always focus on is sometimes our self-love and then having the love with our mates. Because as we know, in a lot of, in society, some more divorces come from families like ours, the ones that have, the kids with special needs. It's like they end up turning against each other instead of, bonding with each other. Tell us some of the things that you guys do to keep those years rolling in happiness. You're smiling, you're happy, not just together for Neo's sake, but just enjoying your mates.
Because you almost was like newlyweds when
Right.
all of this stuff was happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was I think it definitely brought us closer together. And it's funny
That's a hand clap right there.
because
That's what I'm talking about.
the other people have mentioned that to us, and like for the ones who know, probably not everything, but what we have gone through, that they have mentioned that other folks that they know have split because of the extra work. Because you have to imagine, like, we had to learn a language in order to communicate with Neo. Like, most people have a baby and they're like, bottle, water, mom and dad. but Neo's not hearing us. So we had to go take classes together to learn ASL, and then to come home to use it to teach it to a child who wasn't hearing. So the things that outside of, you know, Lamaze classes or whatever do people do to have the baby, and it's like when the baby comes home, okay, now you're it. But on top of that, because we had to learn him, we had to be our own school to exchange information and then impart onto Neo. So that closeness of, we have to collaborate, we have to figure out, you know, doctor appointments, and we have to are we going to do cochlear, or we're going to do hearing aid? Like, okay, well, let's go research the benefit, and then we have to come together to talk about it before we can tell the doctor. So yeah, all these different learning curves. It's kind of like, I don't know, going to college, I guess. And this is my cohort for Neo University, because, you know, I got to learn everything that Neo is going to throw at us and bring to us throughout his life. And the only other person who knows all of the learning curves and the challenges and the hills is your mate. So that's the only thing that I can equate it to. So it definitely brought us closer together throughout the years.
Yeah, I think that that, you know, 1000% true, and you know, it's still a work in progress in terms of I know at times we need to find time for ourselves, and we have to make sure we go on date nights, or you know, we make sure we you know, take that space where we can just talk and just have coffee, you know, and just little things like that. I think that you know, makes our bond stronger. But beware, you know, if you let things just sort of float, and you know, I talked about normalizing that routine, but the routine can't be so much on its own where you about that spontaneous, hey, let's just head on out to whatever, you know, because it's very easy to let the routine sort of
it is
away. And you know, just be careful of that, because I think if couples get into that mode, you find yourself doing the same exact thing year 2, 1, 5, next thing is 10 years.
Absolutely.
You haven't gone on vacation, or you haven't, you know, set aside time to do a romantic dinner or something like that. So I think you have to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah,
Sounds
because
like you got to be intentional.
You have to. I heard Patrice talking more about Neo. That's why I was like, I'm trying to get to because we know you guys are Neo's parents, and we know he's well taken care of. But now it comes to remembering that you all are mates. How do we reach?
So one thing that we really now, because he's on campus Monday, Tuesday nights, like we do find ourselves. Oh, here he comes.
Come on,
say hi,
Neo. You say hi.
Hi, Neo.
You say hi.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
All right.
He was just checking us out. He like,
no, he signed it.
Teenager.
You missed it. He's asking.
What did he sign?
He wants dessert. I told you the boy does not miss a meal.
And that's all.
You have a typical teenager.
That's the thing. He would have stayed over there. Now he's hungry. So now let me just.
You have a typical teenager.
Yeah, a typical teenager. A typical teenager.
No, but the Monday, Tuesday nights have been good in that we do a lot more now, especially because I will say we live in DC, and it does offer a lot of benefits, including respite care.
Yes.
We've not been able to get respite care since COVID. I mean, they keep saying, oh, we've increased the number of hours. Well, you don't have enough people. We have to, even if we book it, 3 weeks in advance or 3 months in advance, we'll get like 2 days before, sorry, the person canceled, and we're left. So we have hired or worked with a young lady who, again, we have to book her in advance. But the Monday, Tuesday nights have been great, where it's, hey, you want to go see a movie? Okay, yeah, let's go see whatever. Or there's something that we've seen on Instagram, a new ice cream spot. Let's go. And so those have been really good.
That's
Um,
good.
Or let's take a walk after dinner.
Yes. Oh.
Who wants to do
Yeah,
Like,
that is a must.
that?
oh
That is
wow.
a must.
It is. It is. I'm joking.
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah,
I
I mean,
did love that.
Yeah.
I
It's
love that you said
interesting.
that. It's sometimes I was like trying to tell my husband one time, like we have to be intentional about stuff. I know it feels weird because you really want it to flow naturally sometimes,
Yeah.
but the reality is that we'll just be waiting. So what are you doing this day, this
Yeah.
time? And I think even like really, and then he'll switch it back on me, and I'm like, good grief. Well, let me see, But it's like that extra effort,
mhm,
that added efforts to be like, it's still about us too.
yeah,
Yeah.
And the example that we have, they're looking at us
mhm,
and what helps us to be happy and whole just with ourselves. What helps us to be whole all the way. So I love that. And I just want to talk about one other thing that Eric was talking about. Gosh, it was a while back. I wanted to say something about it. Oh, the support. And I
Hmm.
like how Patrice had her group
Hmm.
and Eric has his group. And that's some of the questions, Bunny and Paula, don't we usually ask people like, have you guys like ever considered like any kind of support? And I think people are thinking like some kind of therapy or something. Sometimes we'll be like, maybe a group for parents of kids with cancer or a group for this. And they were
Right.
like,
That
no,
can
I never
relate
thought
to
of that.
you.
And we're like, a support group is so beneficial to
Hmm.
your well-being, to connecting with people. So to hear you both talk about a support like other fathers dealing with it, and even just you having a really solid group of friends who down with you 10 toes down, like that's just so good. And I'm so glad you both spoke on that and put that out there, because sometimes people kind of, no, I never thought, but you feel all alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
You feel out there by yourself. And there are other moms, dads, families, people in the community who are dealing with the
Going through
same
the
thing
same
you are.
thing.
And you would come, you would benefit. And not only that, they would benefit from you, your story. You guys share and exchange like resources. You'd be like, oh my gosh, you get this? I didn't
Hmm.
know that. Is it so beneficial. And I'm really grateful to hear you guys speak on that and put that out there, because it's very much needed. No matter what the need is that your loved one have, there
mhm,
is some kind of support group out there that's
right,
really available to help.
true,
Yeah.
very
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah.
Mhm,
And I will say for me, it's like, and this is what started advocacy, because for years I felt so out of place sometimes when I would go places with Morgan. And I can honestly say again, it was certain places I just did not go. Cheek's house was definitely a house that I always felt comfortable. It was never a time they had something. Even all the groups, the what is it, Me Find Me, that whole group, I love them. Because whenever Morgan came around, everybody was like, "Hey, Morgan, how you doing?" And Morgan was like, "Get out of my face." But it was, I think, when I first met Eric, now it was, this wasn't the first time, but one time we were having New Year's. Do y'all remember that New Year's party?
mhm,
And Morgan came and sat on Eric's lap. I don't think y'all had Neo at the time. And I was just so nervous because I was like, she don't know these people. But everybody was so comfortable. Morgan just went and sat on their laps and just made, she scooted back, made herself comfortable. Then she would get up and go sit on somebody else's. But
mhm,
those types of get-togethers, those types of homes is where you feel love, you felt comfortable. It was times that I did take Morgan places that I felt so out of place that sometimes I came home and cried, and I suffered in silence. I
mm,
did, a lot of times I suffered in silence. And that's one thing I always said, I want to be able to help other people, because there's a lot of people suffering in silence and
Hmm.
they don't feel comfortable anywhere they go. Their
Yep.
kids don't feel comfortable. They feel isolated. And so this is the reason why advocacy is starting, because we want everybody to know that, first of all, I know for me, I can honestly say I've been there. I've been where I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't know where Morgan belonged. But guess what? She belongs everywhere that we feel loved.
right,
And so
That's
I
right.
think
I
just
like that.
I like that
Yeah,
too.
I
Yes.
like that, and I think that's the hardest part for some of these things because when we have these kids, we don't expect to be isolated. We don't expect to be ostracized. And when
Absolutely.
that happens, it's very, very hurtful.
It
So
is.
I think that part of advocacy is educating everybody. Part of this is being able to speak what I wasn't comfortable speaking back in the day.
Right.
So I definitely would love for other people. I pray that you guys got something out of this session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eric, I just honestly, I've had I've had the highest respect for you guys. I feel like you all are my family because when you go to Erica's house, I don't know if anybody's been to the Cheeks house,
Yeah.
everybody becomes family,
Mhm.
and
Right.
I've been wanting to get you guys on here for so long because I was like, I think you will be able to help those couples that's going through this, starting out this journey, as well as the mothers that's playing one role, the fathers that's playing one role. Guys,
Yes.
it can be done. I don't care what they say. Our families don't have to end in divorce. They
That's
don't.
right.
The person, and my husband say this all the time. Why would I turn against you? You the one that I'm gonna cry on your shoulder. You the one that I need the
You know,
most. You the
you're
one that
right.
I can be myself with.
Yep.
So I think that during these times, communication, we know communication is important in marriage, but it's especially important during these times. You got to carve
Yes.
out time for yourself. You got to
Absolutely.
communicate with your mate. So I guess those are my closing remarks. I'm gonna give everybody a chance to say something, but I just want to say I love you guys. I
Mhm.
really appreciate you guys coming
Thank
on
you.
here. Even though Eric he cheated on this game on New Year's.
Oh my gosh.
Use, use your time
Oh,
wisely because
he was
you
a
said the last word.
star loser. But I truly love you guys, and I have the
Thank
utmost
you.
respect for you guys.
Absolutely. Back at you. Right back at
Love
you.
you too.
All right,
Good.
Well,
Crystal, I'll give you
I've enjoyed getting to know Eric and Patrice and their son and getting to know some of the challenges that they faced and how they worked through it. And I think they dropped a lot of nuggets tonight that's just
Absolutely.
helpful for a new family, for a family that's been doing this a while, for a seasoned family. Like, I just don't, to me, it doesn't matter where you are. You
Right.
know, you can still, there are some really good takeaways tonight. And I just thank you guys for your time, for showing up and just sharing with us. I love it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate oh, there's Neil again.
be ready for his dessert.
Yeah.
What dessert? Is this dessert?
That's his, and so it's the
Brownie.
color brown, but that's what his saying is brown.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And
People say
brownie could be pie, cookies.
no,
He knows, hey, it's time for dessert. So
And that's why it's important to know your son
That's
yep.
because
right.
someone else will be like, well, what is this?
What is that?
Hmm.
You got to
You
explain.
guys
oh, it's
know.
brown. Oh, it's brown. Yeah, somebody else
Brown,
will be
brown.
like, brown what?
Brown.
Brown what?
Yeah, yeah. I've really appreciated your time with us, especially you, Eric, because we don't get to talk to dads
Oh, no.
too
Yes.
much.
Well,
So
hopefully that changes. Hopefully that
yeah,
changes more.
yeah, we
Yeah.
do have a few on the show. So it's really good to hear from a dad and a husband and to know that you guys are still close and you're doing life with Neo together.
Yes.
You're in this together. So it was definitely refreshing to hear that perspective coming from you, an involved dad and husband.
Yes.
As you said, you're Neo's dad.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
And with that being said, too, I just got a brain, a light bulb went off. I would love to have those heroes. What's the
That's what I
name
was
of them?
looking for. I'm actually
I
on my.
want them. I want to have them on the show. I want to have some of them on the show. I
Yeah,
want
I think
them
that
to
sounds
help
good.
empower our black men, our men. Period.
I thought
Yeah,
you
Well, I
said
That's
know
what.
men.
some
Yeah.
superheroes. Dewey. Dewey is the gentleman that
yeah, he's one of the leaders
he's one of the
for it.
leaders.
I would
Dewey
love if you
Sampson.
guys
Dewey
could
Sampson.
talk to him. If
Oh
you
yeah.
guys could talk to him, I would love to have him on the show.
Father's
Him
a
and some of his
superhero.
men. I would love to just pick their brains. Oh, I would love to have that.
Okay,
That's
I'll shoot you
beautiful.
the email.
Yes.
I don't want to do it here because
But y'all put a
Yeah.
good word in for us too, though. I
Oh
want
yeah.
y'all to.
well, first of all, let's just. I did not cheat. Let's start with that. But no, I definitely would. I definitely will send you the information. Absolutely.
Okay. So, Patrice and Eric, I want y'all to give us some encouraging words for those parents out here that's watching. Tell us, give us drop some little nuggets that you may have left in the cookie jar, and just close us out and just tell us what you guys think some other people would want to know and hear.
So I think it's a parenting, I don't know, gene or whatever that comes naturally, but don't ever think that you may not have there are no mistakes. There are things that you would probably do differently or do better the next time. But the thing, don't beat yourself up over it. I mean, these kids, whether they have disability or not, they're resilient. That love that you're showing them will cover them um, throughout anything. And so if your heart is truly in the right place, there's no there I don't feel like there are mistakes. Oh darn, I should have, you know, I don't know, known some more ASL or whatever. Okay,
Mhm.
learn it tomorrow. There's always something that they are going to be teaching you. So whatever you're doing the best you can with the tools that you have for today, and tomorrow will take care of itself. And then as far as um, other nuggets,
No, I was
yeah,
just gonna. I'll um, bridge that with what I was thinking, and that is, it might be far off, but be the peace that you want for others. Find that space for yourself. When you
Come on
meditate,
here,
I'm big into meditation, and I try,
Mhm.
to center myself, and that still space, and being quiet. And I think when you do that, when you take those moments, you realize that the little thing, what I see, if I have an issue with, say, someone, I'm out and I think that, man, why are they looking at Neo? Why are they looking at me? Or,
Mhm.
that's my ego talking. I have to, understand that. And most times it's like, even if it was the case, when you find that space and time, you realize that that's not important. Me having time with my son is important. Well, us being, sitting at Starbucks together. I'm drinking my coffee, he's drinking his hot chocolate, playing his video game. Those are moments that I have to, I must and appreciate being present and feeling that. And if I'm thinking that, who's looking, that's
Mhm.
just the ego talking, and I need to recognize that. So be at peace, be the peace that you want, and make sure that you practice that stillness, that peace, that quiet, and meditation. And I think, as you said, things sort of evolve and take care of itself.
that's awesome.
Wow, a
yeah.
power couple.
Right.
You guys are a power couple. I'm just so glad that you guys joined us tonight. And again, I know everybody has a busy schedule, but I appreciate you carving time out to come and share your story about Neo, about your family with us. We're
Of
forever
course.
grateful.
1 second, Neil.
He's
Yeah,
not.
we want to say hi. Come on, Neo.
Say bye. Yeah, he's
He
not.
said bye over there.
Do this. If I do this, he'll come through.
See, y'all should have called. Y'all should have conned him with some dessert before he to let
Before.
him know if you come on, we're gonna give you some dessert.
Sit down right here. He would hate in front of you, but he's sitting down. He can't see me now.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much. I
Thank
look
you.
Thanks for
forward
We
having
had
to.
a
us.
good time.
Appreciate it.
Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy we finally did this, Patrice.
Yay.
Yes, yes, it was wonderful. Well, you guys have a wonderful night. And again, thanks again. I appreciate it. Team Crystal Bunny, we will see you next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Have a
Bye,
good
All right.
one.
everybody.
Love
Take
to
Bye.
care.
everybody.
Bye bye.